Now, there's a new report out that claims that Donald Trump became very angry over a law that banned certain American businesses or any American business from doing something they shouldn't do. In this case, bribing a foreign government or bribing foreign officials. Yes, there's apparently a law in place, or there was a law in place, as I'm going to explain, where you can't give money as a company to a foreign government in order to get influence. That seems like that law should be a no-brainer, especially since we're getting so mad, about foreign corporations trying to influence by our politicians. So that's interesting. Now, let me get to the details here. This is according to a new report in the New Yorker. And in it, it was said that Trump was venting about those federal laws that would prevent that kind of bribery. Now, according to the report, a source familiar with the exchange told the magazine that while Rex Tillerson was visiting the White House in February, Trump decided to bring this up in their conversation. Now, there's a reason that Trump brought this up, and we'll get to that. Now, first, Trump began fulminating about federal laws that prohibit American businesses from bribing officials overseas. The businesses were being unfairly penalized. I mean, how dare we penalize these businesses for trying to bribe foreign officials? I mean, I would love to bribe foreign officials so I could get a hotel. Again, that's something that it seems very natural to Trump for something that Trump would want to actually do. Now, it also kind of makes you wonder here that what he thinks about foreign governments bribing him or members of his administration now that he's president. Interesting. But again, this is the president, and I want you to roll this around in your head for a little bit. This is a president saying that bribery of foreign governments is cool, is great, and that we shouldn't have any laws against that. And he made sure, or at least the Republican Party made sure, that we weren't going to have laws against it. Now, the article goes on to explain how Tillerson was, at first, he'll sound like he's the good guy. He's going to make himself sound like the hero, like, oh, I'd never do something like that. But later on, it explains how that's not exactly true, and we'll go to the details. Now, first, he said that when he was an executive with Exxon, he told Trump that he once met with a senior official in Yemen to discuss a deal. At the meeting, Yemen's oil minister handed him his business card, and on the back was a written account, on the back of the card was written an account at a Swiss bank. $5 million, the minister told him. Well, that's an obvious bribe. Somebody says, we're going to do business. Here you go. $5 million. $5 million. Well, what did Rex Tillerson do? He reportedly told Trump, I don't do that. Exxon doesn't do that. If the Yemenis wanted Exxon on the deal, they'd have to play straight. You know me, I'm Rex Tillerson, I'm a straight shooter. You can't buy me, I ain't corrupt. Right. Now, a month later, the Yemenis dissented. Tillerson told Trump that America didn't need to pay the bribes, that we could bring the world up to our own standards, according to a source with knowledge of the exchange telling the New Yorker. Now, again, Tillerson, in that exchange, he's like, I'm the good guy. You can't buy me, man. I'm uncorruptible. I mean, they even tried. Yemenis, $5 million. I could have took that $5 million, put it right in my pocket, but I didn't. I'm the good guy. As you're going to find out, he's not the good guy. Again, for one, he's in charge of a multinational corporation, right? Now, their sole goal is to maximize profit. If that does mean paying off some terrible people, well, that's the cost of doing business, right? Now, I have an example of that, and this is the leader of Equatorial Guinea. Now, Equatorial Guinea is actually one of the world's most corrupt and undemocratic nations. This is a place where dissidents are routinely jailed and tortured by the state. Now, according to a Senate investigation, the dictator of this tiny little oil and gas-rich African nation, a man named Teodoro Obiang Nguema, had received bribes from ExxonMobil in order to be able to do business in their country. Oh, imagine that. Look at that, huh? We have a little African nation, oil and gas rich. And here's ExxonMobil saying, yeah, we're going to give you some bribes so we can do business. But wait, Rex, I thought you didn't do bribes. Interesting. Now, Exxon officials told the investigators that the payments were made not to acquire oil concessions, that's her excuse, but to pay for a variety of services, such as security and catering, that Exxon needed in order to operate in Equatorial Guinea. The company had no choice, they said, since Obiang's family had monopolies on these services. Now, I'm going to give you a quote here to show you how much this is bullshit. This is Elise Bean, who was a former Senate investigator who worked in the case. She told the New Yorker, quote, "This was a wonderful example of paying someone off without actually paying them off." See, look at that. They own the businesses. I'm going to have to pay for the business. I'm going to have to pay for this stuff. It's a bribe. It's a payoff with a nice little front. Now, these discoveries help prompt senators to draw up legislation requiring American resource companies to disclose any payments they make to foreign governments. So here they're saying, okay, look, if you're going to bribe a company, at least we want to know about it. Now, under the legislation, companies would also be required to disclose domestic payments, including taxes paid to the U.S. government. Now, that is something that ExxonMobil has never, ever done. So, you would think that Rex Tillerson, he's like, hey, man, look, transparency, we've got to get rid of the swamp. Got to make sure everything's transparent. I mean, I never took bribes, but apparently my company took bribes. But we're going to do away with that. So what did they do? Did they support this legislation? Of course they didn't. No. They lobbied against it super hard. They actually spent millions of dollars to try and bribe our own politicians. Because that's how it works in America now. Tillerson, they write, as CEO of Exxon, went to Capitol Hill to argue against the rule and met with one of the senators who supported it. According to a source with knowledge of the meeting, Tillerson said that if Exxon had to disclose payments to foreign governments, it would make many of those governments very unhappy, especially the Russian government, where Exxon was involved in multi-billion-dollar projects. The senator, however, who was unnamed, refused to drop the rule, and Tillerson, had become visibly agitated. Tillerson denies that part, but the source said he got red-faced angry. He lifted out of his chair with anger. My impression was that he was not used to people with different views. And that makes sense. I mean, since taking over the State Department, Tillerson has become increasingly isolated and increasingly frustrated the fact that he just doesn't, this isn't a top-down structure, that he doesn't have the authority that he once had at ExxonMobil, whereas it's like he's top dog and he tells everybody else what to do. Again, that's no secret. He is very frustrated, and that's one of the reasons that he considered leaving, at least if the reports are to be believed on that. Now, back to this. So he loses on this issue, right? I mean, the senators, they got this passed. So what happened? Well, that's until the Republicans and Trump got into power. On February 1st, with Exxon lobbyists on the Hill to push Congress, the House voted to rescind the rule that had been passed that was going to go into effect. They rescinded this rule. It was Rule 1504, and the Senate quickly did the same. Again, this was because of the Republicans are in control. Almost exactly an hour later, Tillerson was confirmed as Secretary of State. Hey guys, you know that swamp that Trump kept talking about during the campaign? Yeah, this is it. When you're cool with foreign governments bribing, with companies bribing foreign governments in order to get oil deals, as well as having foreign governments bribe you, well, then you're the swamp. But see, that's what Rex Tillerson, that's what he's about. And that's what Donald Trump is about. And the fact that Trump was actually complaining about these regulations that would put a stop to this bribery is indicative of exactly the type of thing that is wrong with not only America, but with Washington as well. It's not just a Trump problem. It's a symptom of a larger problem. And I guess the one good thing about Trump is that he's there so that we can actually point out the problem. Now, the thing about that, and I don't want to get into a long diatribe against it, but we need to actually solve the problem and not just use it to play politics against each other. I'm interested in actual solutions. I'm not interested in playing team politics. So let's actually fix the problem. Let's actually deal with foreign corruption and bribery and not just use it to score political points with the other side without intending to actually do anything about it. Now, if you actually solve the problem and then you want to gloat and use it for politics, have at it. At least you actually solved the problem. But if you're not interested in it, then I'm not interested in you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.